You're the Chief Marketing Officer with Gourmia, and Surj Patel is the head of IoT, which is
right.
an important role nowadays. Because if you look around, certainly at these products, and look at the show floor over there, more and more products are getting connected. You guys have been in that game for a little bit of a while. I want to learn a little bit about what you guys have announced at the show, and then dive into talking about product connectivity, what it means, and what that evolution path looks like. So,
sure.
First of all, what have you guys announced at the show that's interesting?
Sure. So probably our major announcement is a line of cool cookers. So we have a pressure cooker and a multi-cooker that have cooling technology built in, and they're smart, they're Wi-Fi enabled. So what that does is, if you think about the benefits of a cool cooker or a pressure cooker, it's something that it generally takes a few hours to cook, but it cooks pretty quickly. And if you're working or you're out for the day, you can't really put your food out in the morning and then come home to have something ready, because if you're cooking meat, cooking chicken, you can't leave it out. So what ends up happening in today's world is you come home from work, then you have to start cooking. A couple of hours later, you now have your dinner, and that's 8, 9 o'clock, much too late to eat dinner. So what we've done is we've actually built in these small appliances with cooling technology. So you can set your food out in the morning, your chicken, your meat, your vegetables, put everything in the morning, and it'll keep it cool like a refrigerator until you're ready to cook. And you can either program it from the morning at what time you want dinner ready, or because it's Wi-Fi and app enabled, you can, during the course of the day, say, hey, I'm going to be home earlier than expected, have it ready at 6 o'clock instead of 9 o'clock, or your day is going long, you just change the settings from work and say, hey, I'm not going to be home at 7 o'clock like I thought, I'm going to be home at 8:30. And so it's both an appliance technology, but really an ultimate convenience benefit.
And for me, I love my pressure cooker, but the problem with the pressure cooker is that, like you said, you just can't leave food in there forever. It cooks fast, as opposed to like a slow cooker, or what we traditionally call a crock pot.
Yeah.
You set it and forget it, go to work for 8 hours. So this is essentially bringing the pressure cooker into that set it and forget it category in a way?
Yeah. I mean, and the nice thing is it's set it in the morning and don't worry about your fresh food. And then whenever you're ready, it'll be ready for you. And so yeah, it is set it and forget it, with the convenience of an app, so you don't even have to plan your day. As your day unfolds, you can tell the unit, when it should be ready.
This is a nascent trend I've seen, though, where we're actually seeing cooling and refrigeration starting to be put into cooking products. There's a sous vide product called Mellow, which has had mixed success with it, that has thermal cooling in it. There's another product that's yet to come to market called the Sous Vide, which actually uses water cooling, actually has basically a compressor-based refrigeration unit. Is this like a trend we're going to see? And if it is, are we going to have to educate consumers about, hey, this is a countertop product that actually can cool your food for a while? Like, it seems like there might have to be a consumer education thing that we have to do there.
Yeah, I think you're right, because for so long, cooking has been a multi-step process. You leave things in the refrigerator until you're ready, and then you take it out and you cook, right? And so there's been two distinct phases, and we're now, asking people or telling people that you can start your cooking process in a refrigeration mode. And it's hard to wrap your mind around until you understand that the barrier to convenience has always been that you have to move something from your refrigerator to cook. And that's really been kind of the time limiting factor of how long it takes you to cook dinner. So yeah, there's definitely an education piece to it, and I do believe that once people start to think about it, they'll understand it and change their behavior. Everyone that we've had the opportunity to demonstrate these products to or talk about to, they come away thinking, wow, this is amazing, I really want one. It's great. I wish I had 5 minutes to explain to every consumer what this is, because everybody understands the benefit once they get the story. The challenge from a marketing perspective is, how can I really educate people when I don't get 5 minutes of one-on-one time with them?
It also speaks to me that this is a product that leverages connectivity to do a feature that is more than just remote on and off. Because I think we're kind of in this era of smart connectivity around products, where we want to see more value add than just simply, hey, I have an app, I can turn a product on and off remotely. I mean, that seemed very 2015. As we move into today's world, where millennials are buying more, they're moving into more of the cooking era. They're moving into their earning years. They're having families. They kind of want connected products, it seems. but I think they want more value add than just like, hey, I can turn it on and off remotely.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, and part of that goes to sort of thinking about what is the product and what does it mean to have a product connected to the internet properly as a first-class device, rather than something that's just using the technology for basic on-off communication. So like you take the telephone. The telephone was originally invented with the idea it'd be a great way to transmit opera. But people found, and actually even Graham Bell found, that actually a two-way communication was just much more useful about stock information or whatever it is you want to do, and that was the basis of it. Same thing with IoT. I think the first thing that technologists like myself realized, like, hey, I can put a hardware or a consumer appliance on the internet. Great, that means I can switch it on and off remotely, right? Great, first thing. But it's on the internet, so I can download videos to it, I can download recipes to it, I can upload pictures I've taken with my appliance to the internet, I can connect to other web services, Twitter, Instagram, it doesn't matter, right? Your phone is a classic example. It's a first-class internet device, but what it does is allow you to connect to services that make you more of what you are. And so the same thing with Gourmia products. We want to basically give customers what they want, or what they truly want, which they haven't yet quite articulated. We'll help them find it. So that's what we're doing. So we're designing stuff for the internet. That's first-class internet.
And and you raised the point about sharing photos and things like that. So we early on understood that yes, just using it using apps as on and off is great, but it's not the end all be all. So we've actually for a couple of years have a product on the market and something that it's an air fryer that has a camera in it, right? And we've been working on it for a little bit, and some of it is, well, what else can we do to these connected appliances? And what this is able to do is a couple of things. You can remotely monitor your food. It also has the ability to tweet out pictures of what you're cooking. Now, it may not be the best solution for what else can you do on a connected product, but it's a little bit of how we think. What else can we do that's just beyond on and off? And I think to Surj's point, we're thinking much more broadly than just remote control features.
Yeah, when I think of Gourmia, I see a company that has tons of products, like hundreds of SKUs. I don't know if that's right, but you guys throw a lot of spaghetti against the wall. I thought of that air fryer with a camera in it before. It's kind of an interesting product. I never would have conceived of, like a camera and an air fryer, but that kind of did say, hey, you guys are experimenting a little bit. Any lessons you learned from that product? Are people actually using it, like you're sharing?
Well, look, I think our strategy when it comes to product development and the idea of being broad is born out of a few basic thoughts. One is we're not a specialty company. So what I mean by that is we're not a coffee company. We're not a pressure cooker company. We're a brand experience company that's targeting today's consumers that want great kitchen experiences at affordable prices that enable them to live life the way they want to and bring, I would say, more complex, sophisticated cooking experiences to their home. So what that means is we have SKUs in coffee, we have SKUs in air fryers and in pressure cookers. So that by default makes our range very large. But the other thing is, in order to learn about the consumer and really try to explore with the consumer what's next, we want to push the boundaries. And so I would say the example of what we've learned from the air fryer with a camera is it's probably not the most popular feature to have a camera. But we also learned that consumers are not just going to be satisfied having connected products that are just on and off, that are basically glorified pre-program modes. That's not what they want. And so for us, it opens up a dialogue with consumers to say, okay, what is it that you do want, and what else? What is it that we can? What value can we add that will make your life easier? And to be honest, we are in this category is at the tipping point where soon it'll become obvious what consumers wanted all along, but we're not there yet. Right. And so we can't go to consumers and say, what do you want? It's like if you imagine before an iPod was introduced, no consumer would say, I want my entire record library in my pocket. They couldn't even imagine it. And so, on a similar level, consumers can't come to us and say what they want out of cooking because they're already generally satisfied cooking, but they also know that there's more out there. So as far as us pushing the envelope and introducing kind of a fairly wide array of products opens up a dialogue, and we hear from consumers kind of what feels right and what doesn't feel right. And I think it's part of our DNA is to push pretty far.
So let's talk about that a little bit, pushing further. You guys are working on, you have an IoT platform essentially that you've helped a lot with in terms of kind of taking Gourmia from stage 1 to stage 2 in terms of what you can do down the road. What are some of the things you guys are working on where maybe in a year or two we'll see kind of next level and interesting IoT powered feature sets from Gourmia products?
So I mean, there's been many examples of companies like Heston Q, for example, doing guided cooking. Guided cooking is something that we want to do, but we don't necessarily want to produce the content. So how can we use our platform to bring Heston Q and other folk into our devices, giving them the right environment for that code to execute and provide that experience to people. People want to have an appliance. If it's connected to the internet, they want to learn from it. They want to share with it. They want to create stuff and then actualize themselves by showing what they've done with it. So we're looking at that. We're also looking at ideas like working with our brick and channel retailers to work with getting on-screen stores for them. So I can't give you names, but let's just say some of the biggest retailers. How can they access this device that they've taken the time and the money to inventory and sell, and how can we provide them value with the relationship to the customer?
So would you move, like moving food point of sale into the home, or?
That's one of the things, yeah. I mean, so take a look at Hewlett-Packard. They proved a great model where they've taken a product and turned it into a store. Right? When this thing runs out of ink, it just comes in the mail to you straight away, right? Another great example is Nespresso in Europe. They have internet-connected machines. The cartridges arrive in time for you to not allow you to break your experience. Meal kit companies, if they started working with us, could we deliver meal kits which are designed for the cold cook, which are designed to be put in, dumped in, and then cooked and ready? And we know that what your preferences are, we know what you're going towards. How can we help provide an experience that customers want, rather than, let's say, with some of the other big Silicon Valley data players, giving them experiences that they didn't want?
Well, I mean, speaking of that, a lot of who we think of generally wanting to do that is voice interface players like Amazon and Google Home, right? So they're clearly trying to connect to your products, which they do, and they want to kind of own that commerce transaction layer. How do you kind of navigate that path? Do you guys want to kind of enable those scenarios? Are you working with Amazon in those scenarios?
We're working with Amazon and we're working with Google on integration with voice. Voice is actually an interesting one. Voice is shown to be really popular with things like coffee makers, we found. People love to shout at their coffee machines for a coffee. So, that's one thing we learned. We're working with them. There is this sort of tension between, how much data do they know and do they own the platform? It's the platform we belong to. But we're just basically treating it, it's not proved to be onerous, it's actually proved to be enabling. And they've invested the time and the money in a very complex piece of infrastructure, voice recognition. If it was that easy, why hadn't anybody else done it?
Right.
Like, give them credit where it's due. And they sell a lot of our products, so we like them,
So stepping back and talking a little bit about the Gourmia brand, and all these products you have that have connectivity, are you targeting, would you say you target largely Gen Z and millennials, Gen Z?
Yeah.
And how are they cooking differently from like myself, who's like a Gen X, my mom, who's like a baby boomer? Like, do they require connectivity? Do they require technology? And if they do, they'd probably be more discerning than just like remote on and off, right?
Yeah. So yes, we do target millennials and Gen Z. I think that they don't necessarily require connectivity, but they desire connectivity. But they desire connectivity not for the sake of just a gadget. So it has to solve a problem for them. And in general, and it's hard to speak about two generations in general, but they're millennials in particular looking for unique cooking experiences. So they, coffee is a great example. So you, I, and other probably generations before us, when they want coffee, they just want coffee. They don't care how it shows up. But a millennial or Gen Z, I want cold brew today, I want pour over tomorrow. If I want just regular coffee, it's got to be grind and brew. So it's got to come right from these specific beans. They want to be in control of the experience and of the output. And so from the products that we bring to market, it's really important. But in terms of the connectivity, we have to find a way to add value to it, because they don't have the disposable income, and they're smart enough not to be fooled by just, by marketing, glitz and say, wow, it's connected. So the challenge for us and brands like us is to figure out how to unlock the convenience that will make them say, this is a product for me, because they are growing up in a world where everything is connected, and quite honestly, in a few years, everything in their kitchen will be connected. And so it's an opportunity for brands like us to figure out how to add value, because I think that they expect the products to be connected, and I don't want to say they're disappointed that they're not today, but they accept the products today, but they're not wowed by them.
I group Gen Z and millennials together, but those clearly are two generations. Gen Z is just kind of starting to come up and maybe buying their first coffee maker.
Yeah.
Have you noticed any kind of early indicators of I have a couple kids in that age group, very tech forward, very tech native, very discerning, and don't stand for BS.
Yeah.
What are some of the kind of hallmarks you're seeing in terms of early purchasing?
Actually, Mike, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Then? If you got the kids, and we both have kids in the same thing, what do they watch?
What do they watch? Lots of YouTube, and there are lots of social media.
YouTube is their new ABC.
And Instagram,
period.
lots of Instagram,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
and that's where they're learning about products, but they're also
They're learning as well
They have
from
a
it.
huge antenna around BS. This is an overused word, authenticity, but they definitely can sense authenticity versus contrived.
Yeah, and it's interesting because their definition of authenticity will change over time as they realize so much of the content on
As
YouTube.
it becomes jaded and worn down, like ourselves.
Right. But yeah, they want authenticity. They expect things. So if you're looking at YouTube, right, as an example of how they get content, they're in control. They're in control of what they're watching, when they're watching. They don't want things served to them because a manufacturer or a content distributor thinks it's important. They want to be the filter of what comes into their home. And so they are much more discerning in terms of shopping. They seem to be very comfortable shopping through a wide range of products to find the one that they want. So in terms of mass market appeal, they don't seem to be so concerned with that's the model or that's the brand that all of my friends use. It's a good sounding board that their friends use it, but if they want a specific feature, they're going to find what they want. So I think that they will be, having grown up in a digital connected world, I think they're going to challenge brands like us to think much, much harder about how do we add value so that we're adding convenience to them and adding what they want, not what we can do.
So just extending on that really quickly is, have your kids ever made a YouTube video or actually talked about trying a YouTube channel? That's one of the other great things about YouTube is they feel they can access it equally as much as the viewers, right? So it's a constructionist platform. That's what really empowers them. It's like, oh well, TV, yeah, kind of cool, I'll watch that, but this is cool because I get people like me making stuff that means something to me, but I could make something as well, and it's not out of my reach.
Yeah, and I think they're much more likely to be a content producer on a social interactive platform beyond YouTube, like an Instagram or like.
Because their audience means something to them.
That's kind of where they're telling their stories. But I'd be interested to see, because you look like some of the very social media forward media brands that have emerged over the past couple of years, whether that's like a kind of a BuzzFeed Tasty or whatever, or some of the ones that are kind of YouTube native brands. If you're someone like Gourmia that targets that millennial and then even younger Gen Z, are you working to engage with these guys? I mean, how do you kind of see? Because that seems like that's where they're going to discover the appliance they need to make that great recipe, right?
Yeah,
so talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So yes, we are engaging with millennials and Gen Z, in traditional forms, in traditional communication channels.
Well, I know you're that, but what about the brands, those kind of influencer brands, kind of using these more forward-leaning social media platforms? Are you
in terms of collaborating?
Yeah. Are you trying to target those guys and say, hey?
We are, and so listen, it's hard as a young brand like us. We're 3.5 years old. So yeah, authenticity is really important, and gaining street cred is really important. So we need to leverage some of those relationships in order to to kind of generate the authenticity in a quicker way than just organically. But at the same time, we need to own our brand, and we need to own the relationship with our brand. So yes, we want to partner with the right brands that have cachet and social media presence that we may not have yet. But at the same time, we're not ready to just give over our brand and give over our voice. So the nice thing is that we are an extraordinarily fast-growing brand. So reaching out to these potential partners, they're generally receptive to working with us because they've seen what we've been able to do in the short term.
One last question for you, Surj. As the IoT guy, anything you've seen here that excites you, and then what should I be excited about around kind of IoT-powered household products over the next few years?
Okay, my main, disclosure, I'm a real geek, so my thing has been getting rid of the app on the phone, the disconnect. I'm seeing more and more products like our products, but also Jura out there as well.
Moving away from the app as the control layer?
Correct. So it's an IoT connected product, but it's also got a control screen and a touch screen on the appliance itself. Now, clearly that's a lot of cost to a BOM, for a lot of manufacturers and stuff here, but that price is dropping vastly. I mean, we've just done some first early connections with component suppliers, and we're trying to get these things right down in the low single digits now.
So you see on-device interfaces, touchscreens becoming more preeminent?
I think voice,
right.
on-screen devices, and then integration with other web services that already exist out there.
Right.
Think about it. You've got Twitter, Instagram, and other things on your phone. I want to start seeing those on our appliances in a meaningful way, right? And I'd love to do like a quick analysis on Instagram and see how many of those Instagram things are of food, right? Plating, a restaurant, look what I'm eating right now. Here I am, Why not? And then there are bigger initiatives going on like AB626, which is the California initiative to enable people to produce food at home and sell it. Why can't we have appliances where I can sell my extra batch of cupcakes or brownies or the stew that I'm really good at making, which I am actually, but hey.
You reminded me of kind of going back to the early question about kind of how broad we are and kind of throwing things against the wall. So a good example is a year and a half ago, we actually have two products that have completely integrated screens that are app controlled, voice controlled. And quite frankly, we couldn't bring them to market because the cost was prohibitive. A year and a half later, the products that we developed 18 months ago are ready for market because of the work that we've done, and now the market is ready for it. So that's part of the reason why we push so hard, because we believe that the work we're doing will pay off either in this generation or the learning for something else.
Very cool.
And I think that's the other thing as well. In failing with IoT, you can afford to fail faster, quicker, and get to know what is going to work and what's not. Because the biggest risk that any of these companies face, and you know this as well, Mike, from your past and stuff, is will people buy the product? And that's the great thing. It's like, yeah, we've got 100 SKUs, but we know exactly what things are going to sell and what not, and we can put our effort into those then.
Is there a danger though with failing with too many IoT products if you're being too experimental? And one of this is just, I'm not saying that the air fryer with the camera failed, but like if you have too many of these products that don't eventually become hits, is there a danger in that?
Yes, absolutely. Quite frankly, there is. I mean, we have to own our reputation. We have to own both from a trade perspective, with our trade partners, and with the consumer. So we can't deliver something that doesn't work or doesn't work as expected. I think it's perfectly okay in our workshop and in our R&D to push things forward, but we have to be pretty pragmatic about what we introduce to consumers and to our trade partners, because you don't get that many opportunities to get a product on shelf or in distribution with a prime retailer, and you can't afford to fail. So yes, we can. We do have the ability to push forward, to push through patches and fixes, but we're very aware of kind of our reputation, and we have to make sure that we don't fail our consumers and our trade partners.